Alors, c'est un plaisir d'annoncer le prochain intervenant, c'est Alexander Schieffer. L'approche de Transform Integral World, c'est une approche holistique de la compréhension et de l'évolution consciente des systèmes humains. Il sert à remédier au déséquilibre au sein de l'individu, de l'organisation, d'une communauté et ou d'une société, mais aussi dans des domaines spécifiques tels que l'économie, l'entreprise ou le développement humain. Développé conjointement par Ronnie Lessen et Alexander au cours des dernières décennies en collaboration avec un groupe de co-créateurs sans cesse croissant, l'approche relie de manière unique le développement individuel, organisationnel et sociétal. Alexander will speak to us in English, so I don't give the introduction in English, he will do that himself.
Thank you very much. Bonjour, messieurs, dames. Et premièrement, je dois m'excuser que je ne vais pas parler en anglais parce que mon français n'est pas suffisamment fort. Mais dans cette année, quand on se voit de nouveau dans cette conférence, je vais parler en français. So thank you very much for bearing with me that I speak in English. I couldn't imagine a better way of starting a talk than with the affirmation of the heart. So thank you very much for that. And when Lindsay contacted me many months ago and asked me whether I would like to contribute to this beautiful event, I said immediately yes. And why? He didn't even have to explain much, because the two terms of world serving and this beautifully poetic theme of evoking the power of the one life immediately attracted me and immediately, manifested its resonance with the work that we as Transform, that is our organization, are doing in the world. So before I start, I want to evoke the power of the one life. And because I'm also a poet, I will do that with a poem of mine. I want to open and close with a little poem. And the first poem is not called One, it's called Zero.
Becoming essential is the call of our time. Moving from experience to essence, breaking through illusion, being stark naked, crystal clear. Now, responding to each moment as it arises, to rise with it, within it, that's it. Not being separate, but part of it, integral part, becoming whole. One. One I. One you. One we. Just one. Zero.
So I would like to build on the potent shoulders that have been presenting this morning, Philip Lindsay and Antonio Alejandro, yes, Comillo, and Anton, yeah, go. Which really gave me the clue, and in particular the last one, there was a build-up, I could see a connection when you talked about integral or holistic education and the importance of it. And in my work, whatever can be seen from that, I would like you to share with you how, in what way we are working with an integral holistic paradigm translated into education, as I agree with you that education is the heart of the development process of the great transition that we are going through. So the focus on education, but also research and innovation, new ways of researching, research, and also development processes in general that needs to be redesigned in a more holistic way. So we as Transform, just in a nutshell, we are on the one hand a local global movement for integral agents of transformation, But primarily, we are an innovation center and catalyst based here in Geneva that works with an approach which we developed over the last 20 years, which we call Integral Worlds Approach. And it is about supporting individuals, organizations, communities, societies to engage in carefully designed transformative processes in order to develop their full potential as individuals, but also to generate holistic solutions to the burning issues of our time. I'm often dreaming of education processes that if education from kindergarten to PhD would be designed in a way that each would address a burning issue in his or her community, organization, and society, and not just address it through knowledge and solutions, but also through new practices, we would have a fundamentally different world. So I agree that education is the key. And what you can't see, it talks about home for humanity. We have a campus an hour away from here, which is also our home, but then many of the transformative processes to a degree also take place while we work all around the world. And working in the world is important because wherever we work with a particular cultural essence, which is a gift that we find in each society in order to create unity in diversity, to build on the richness of the world that we hold among ourselves. From Italy to Mexico to Switzerland to Mallorca, you know, wherever we are already in the room, we have so many different nationalities that I picked up. So I want to share briefly the integral way how we define it with you, but then also take you on a world journey to show you some examples, how do we translate it, and I want to finish with a little video. Am I quite all right in terms of pace? My voice, can you hear me well? Okay, great. So this is, well, one image of a world in which we live at the moment, you know, fragmented, out of balance, you know, rather chaotic state in which we feel interiorly and outwardly, and a lot of confusion and unclarity is around. So the integral approach that we are working with, this you see here as an archetypal image, is actually based on research over the last 20 years into the most holistic, sustainable development solutions from schools to enterprises to economies, and we developed this kind of generic archetype, you know, the world as a whole, integrated, but in the center also the human being integrated through its body, being, heart, center, mind, knowing, and when this alignment, all-inment, alignment, is then active in the world, it has another axis coming in, which is the more intuitive, creative side of the human being and the more active, pointed, analytical side of that we are all holding. And I'm arguing that any education should look at the human being as a whole, working on that particular alignment, but at the same time also in expressing it in the world. And if you look at our societies, it's interesting, because we all work with these deeply rooted archetypal perspectives, equally you see that a society is constituted by what you can't see, and which we haven't seen for too long, which is nature and community and ecology, that is at the very south, the feet. Then you have science, systems, technology, the mind of the society. Every society has its own culture, artistic, creative expression, very often overlooked in development processes. And of course, every society has its economic, enterprise, and political expression. We would argue if you don't look at all of them, you will not have authentic expression. So for example, I would argue that most societies in the world do not have an authentic economic expression. And they're copying actually this functional Western model, which is already kind of on the brink to collapse, but because we do not sufficiently activate the originating, the generating power of new solutions in societies, we follow outward models. That's the dilemma of development writ large for many decades, that it came as an outside-in approach rather, and this is now only shifting in the last 10 years, that we need to develop inside-out solutions to self-development and to societal development. So each of these sides has an important role to play. The southern part, the being, is our closeness to nature, our ability to build communities. The east is about being reflective, intuitive, creative, raising of consciousness. Totally vital. The first two that I mentioned are usually the starting points in our work. usually the two most forgotten, including the center. We focus primarily on knowing, conceptual strengths, institution building, and on doing, practical orientation, building, enterprise, and policies. The argument again is all dimensions needs to come together, and the center has the ability, the heart, to synthesize, to connect these different worlds and bring them all together. So in our work, we begin and continuously connect to the particular calling and passion and purpose that people, but also societies or organizations hold, the center point. Now, this is perhaps a surprising image, but it's just a collection of integral images that you find around the world. It's a very fascinating thing, how we, in our different cultures, from the Celtic cross to the Tibetan mandala to the Christian cross to a lily growing in nature, the monogram of Muhammad, to see here, this is the Vitruvian Man, this is the labyrinth in the cathedral of Chartres, medicine wheel expression. Down here we have Africa, pre-missionary contact, having holistic, integral, fourfold and center images. Of course, also the world is interesting enough designed into southeast, northwest, and the seasons are expressing this fourfold. And I brought him today with me. We have in India a beautiful expression of the dynamic fourfold and center is for me Shiva Nataraj, who is here. And because you mentioned the divine feminine, of course, Shiva can't dance without Shakti. It's always the two need to move together. So we bring the yin and yang always within ourselves and in our societies together. This is an image I found on a website called, well, it's interesting. There's a fourfold outwardly and inwardly, and of course there is a fivefold and the threefold and the circular. All of these are archetypal expressions of integrated wholeness. So that's actually very beautiful, and maybe that's part of our resonance. Alice Davies once said, the entire universe is a great mirror, a great theater of mirrors. And indeed, I would say the integral approach is like looking into a mirror. You look into your own self and you connect and explore also with others to what degree is my mind, my intelligence activated to the degree that it leads to innovation. How much am I grounded in my body and alive in my body that it leads to vitality in life? Creativity, how much can I express it in life? And the co-creativeness, the right hand where I participate in society, and what is my own issue, my calling, my passion that is driving me from within. So you may look into the integral model as a mirror, continuously reflecting your own way of being whole. And wholeness is for me a dynamic term, it's not a static term. How do we activate it? One way of how do we activate it, and we talk playfully about the genius of a person or the genius of a society, we begin with the I in the center. That's where your inspiration sits. That's what we explore with people. From kindergarten to PhD, we run a PhD program, but a PhD which is also a process for holistic development. PhD. It's also a PhD, but it's something much larger. You go really on a journey. You begin with your inspiration. You then go down. You ground yourself in your reality. If your inspiration is not grounded in the reality in which you live, and also not bringing to the surface the gifts and capacities in your context, it's very difficult to root new solutions. So that is very important. Down the G for grounding. Then we don't go outwards, we go inwards. What are the capacities, the insights, the vision that I can bring out in order to resolve the issue that I'm facing? That is the expanding potential, the creative dimension. We are tapping into that. And only then we go into the mind, navigating new knowledge, developing new solutions in a more abstract way, perhaps more conceptual way, because that's part of our gift as well. And when that is articulated, we move west. The west is the more active side. We have to impact, and we have to address the issue we are really addressing. For us, there is no process that we go through from bachelor to PhD that is not ultimately expressed in really addressing the issue in practice. And you see the spiral in the middle. Of course, any practice is only short-term. They're continuously evolving. Another beautiful quote, well hidden. Alice Bailey is hiding here to move in. Emphasis should belay on the evolution of humanity. It's an evolutionary model that is continuously evolving, going deeper inside and going deeper outside. Meaning from self to organization to community to society, but also ever deeper inside. So that is a genius model we are working with. And for us, at the heart of it is that we are also bringing the whole together that I mentioned, because we see in the world a dramatic split between nature and culture, and the center is kind of cut off. And we are basically in education and are working only with the mind, and to a degree without the skills. So, and on the other hand, if you want to play a little bit geographically, it's also the West and the North that are dominating the world. When I go, and I say it may sound a bit of exaggerated, but if you go, for example, into universities and look in the curricula that are taught in most disciplines, most of the knowledge base is not coming from the country where it's taught. It's coming from outside, and basically from America and Europe. Nothing wrong with these two parts of the world, actually quite the contrary, but if we do not have the diversity of our different knowledge bases, I feel we get into we can't evolve. And you may agree with me that we have a couple of evolutionary problems if I look to America today, or to Europe as well. You know, there's a certain static inside, and I feel here is one of the reasons for that. Whatever we do, we put into writing. There's a whole series with the world's leading applied research publisher, Routledge in Oxford, where the work, not just that I and my co-founder of Transform have written, but our entire community now of co-creators, the works are always expressed also in writing, so we can build up also a new knowledge base together. I wanted to share with you some cases. Where do we work and how do we work? So I call it today playfully an integral world server journey. And you have to forgive me because I'm not that deeply steeped in the work of Alice Bailey. I have only a surface knowledge, so I may not always hit the right tone, but certainly I could see the resonance. So I want to take you to different processes that touch on self and society, but also work with different cultures, and we're using different formats. Here's one. I begin close to home. That's where I live. An hour away from here in France, and this is like 6 weeks ago with a group of students from the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland. And since 9 years, I'm doing 2 courses there. One is on integral development, and one is called On Becoming an Agent for Transformation, Integrated Self-Development. Well, those of you who know St. Gallen and the University of St. Gallen, you may not expect a course like that taking place at a kind of elite economics and business university, but systems are shifting. There's a deep understanding that we also need to work in a new way with the full human being and engage also with societies. Education has to become relevant also again for our societies. You know, many of the young people I work with are suffering because they get their bachelor or master's, but they don't feel relevant for society. They don't feel that the education has helped them to identify where their contribution in society lies. There's something we need to want to work on. So these are just some images you see. We also work with arts. There's some pictures. This is the compass we are working in this particular course with. So they have to really work through a process that begins with identifying purpose, then goes down to restore natural relationship, my relationship with nature, relationship to myself, relationship in general, then identifies creative potential. They work on their shadows, their inner potential that they're holding. They develop then a vision for their own contribution for society, and they work with the different knowledge bases in each case, and ultimately also a pathway for embodying this transformation in their own lives and in their own communities. We always work relational. I'm a big fan of self-development, but I'm an even bigger fan of self-development in relation to the other, to the community, to society. So we have a context to work in. Now, some of the young people, and you see some of the pics here, come then to me and says, oh, can you supervise my bachelor thesis or my master thesis? And I would always say I don't like supervision. That's an old concept from education. But if you want to co-create holistic solutions, if you want to participate in the global integral network that we have developed, And you go for about 6 months to one of our partner organizations in Africa, in Egypt, in India, in Sri Lanka, they're all over the world, and work with them on a burning issue that they face in their context. And if this burning issue is aligned with what your burning issue is in life, then there could be a match, and I'm then not supervising, but I'm helping you to catalyze a holistic solution for that context. And then here you see some of the students, and you see on the left some of our partner organizations, SECM in Egypt, and that's coming from there they are. PAC Service in Nigeria, Koro in India, an organization working with slum women. And this is Sadhana School. I'm going to speak about that in a moment. So one of these young people, this direction, went to India. Silvan is his name, he's Swiss. He went to India and he went to this school for mentally challenged girls. They call them not mentally challenged, they call them specially abled. They're really working in a holistic way to find out what is the particular ability that these young women hold. And they did that incredibly successful, but they have never articulated their educational approach. So they invited us to come in to help them to express what their approach to education is. And if you know India a little bit, and you know in particular when it comes to mentally challenged girls, it's bad karma, they're hidden and locked up in the families. And it was very difficult to bring them out, and a gifted special educator, Radhika Khanna, opened the school some 25 years ago with incredible successes, not only to bring these young women out into an educational context, but to take them on a journey that often made them the major breadwinners in their own society, in their own families. So it's really working also big time with stigma. And here you see, they're working with a powerful enfolded approach, evoking the power of the one life, the student-teacher relationship in the center, the whole school as a nourishing ecosystem. The parents and families are all part of this whole ecosystemic constellation to support the process of unfolding of potential in order to have an impact in society as a whole. Here is their unique model, and it is called Purnatva. Purnatva, for those of you who speak Sanskrit, I don't, but it means wholeness. Because they have an Indian approach to wholeness, to the evoking the power of the one life, and they tapped into their own resources. It begins with, the child or the young woman, or now they're also working with young men, the parents bring it. But then the first thing is they go down and accept the child as it is. And in this process of total accepting, of grounding, there's a certain level of relaxation and opening up. And then they go east, balancing the student, and as they are in India, they do that with their own spiritual, philosophical skills. They meditate. And I meditated with a group of 70 young women. I couldn't help at one stage to look back, because I couldn't believe they're really all sitting there meditating and connecting, young women with autistic diseases and many other mental challenges. But it was a powerful experience for myself. And as they become balanced and more connected, experiencing higher levels of consciousness in themselves, they get ready for education, to receive knowledge. That's the north. They learn, and they have about 8 to 10 different métiers which they're learning, and then ultimately they're going into the environment, balancing environment. They're experiencing work and life. They're leaving the school, and the school has also built a little social enterprise where some of them work, but many then go into the world and receive a work environment and become a major breadwinner in their own family. Then I wanted to take you to Jordan in the Middle East, and there we work with the Middle East's largest group of medical laboratories. And they began to talk to us, and actually that's interesting, the vice president of this organization was on our PhD process, Mana Al-Nimer. And she said, the CEO, and she said, the problem we face, we grew so much, we kind of have lost to who we are. They called it, we want to revitalize our moral core. An interesting language, but we worked with that. So they began with the center, what are we really up here? Is it making money? Is it growing about more? He said, no, actually, in a deep process of recalibrating themselves, he said, we want to contribute to a healthy society. And when you're in Jordan and in the Middle East, you know what that means. It's not just, hell, it's also how do we work with this deep conflict that our region holds and bring this into our organization. And what we did, we evolved the functions of an enterprise. So I don't know how many of you work in business or enterprises, but usually we are aware there is marketing and finance and operations and HR. And he said, well, all of these functions kind of disconnect often an organization from society. That's what we also often feel as consumers. How do we, and we wrote a whole book about this, how do we evolve organizational functions so the organization is more embedded in society? So we went on a whole journey where marketing is evolved into community building. Inner community, outer community. HR is not anymore human remains. It becomes a process of conscious evolution, the skills of the people. Conscious evolution also of society. I mean, I can only tap now on the surface of the processes we went through them for many years. Science, R&D, IT, quality became the function of knowledge creation, the mind. Knowledge creation internally, what is the knowledge that we are giving into societies? If you're familiar with the Muslim world, you go into the Quran, the third verse, the third most mentioned word is alim, knowledge. It's a deep veneration of knowledge. Now, how much knowledge and social innovation comes out of the Muslim world at the moment? You know what I mean? They had an enormous renaissance time between the 8th and 13th of century. The leading power in terms of knowledge creation in the world is all gone. So they are also in this process of reconnecting to the knowledge generation processes from within. Finance is not anymore function in isolation, going only after bottom line, but an enabler for sustainable development. So you see that is the function. Then they translated this into a process called care. Every lab of these 50 labs I have across the Middle East is having every week a care circle. And there you see the lamp, which is you find in every laboratory, the care lamp. And care stands actually for community activation, you see. So we activate our community, we build trust. A is for awakening integral consciousness. How do we see the larger perspective? That's evoking the power of the one life, you may almost say, awakening integral consciousness, seeing the issues we hold in a larger context, so I'm continuously expanding. The R is we do research and innovation. We research the issues we are facing in our organization, and E stands for embodiment. And if you later want to look at the care lamp, each letter beautifully also symbolizes that, the way how it's designed. Right? Unfortunately, you see it in the lower corner, but you can't see it on the screen. So that's an enterprise context, and I come gradually moving towards the end. We also work with the whole society, which is Slovenia. And here's something very interesting. It's almost a bit spooky, because when I came today a little bit late, I sat in the back and I said, oh, I know that lady. Roswitha Grass sits here. And then the story is, 9 years or 8 years ago, on a Sunday, Monday I came back to the office here in Geneva, and one of our books called Integral Economics was gone. And there was a little letter. It says, sorry, I've taken the book, here's the address, can you send us, how much does it cost, and we want to pay it. Daja Pichiga from Slovenia, a friend of Roswitha. They came on the Sunday into the lobby of the office. She said, I want to have that book. I take it with me, and I wrote an email and says, Daja, why are you interested in integral economics? And then we began a dialogue, a conversation. We met at Co here in Montreux, invited her to come there and join a workshop on integral economics. Out of that came a whole process of working with an entire society on creating an integral economy and society in Slovenia. 2 years ago, we published a book with all the cases on integral green Slovenia. And 3 weeks ago, we had our 5th international conference. And the beauty here is, and you see it on the next slide, and again, I have to decipher the bottom, that different protagonists of society, representing the diverse sectors of society, come together to develop a vision for their homemade economy and society, and not with a vision just for themselves, but creating a role model for Europe. And we had European Parliament representatives in the conferences, and they are representing how they come together as in the south, nature and community. So you have local municipalities or nature-based social enterprises. In the east, you have integrated development and regional development approaches from across Slovenia. In the north, we have social enterprises, cooperatives who are working with economic democracy. Domel is Slovenia's largest high-tech organization with electromotors they're working. So very substantial organizations have joined this process to revisit their own organization, one, but also to see what does it mean for a larger societal vision to carry together as an organization. The last slide is pushing forward. It comes almost automatically. So this is, and now in the center is a citizens' initiative for an integral green Slovenia that is kind of holding this as a society initiative. And in the center is, back to Mr. Anton, is the notion of education. And the last conference, I want to show you that picture. No, wrong direction, I'm sorry. These pictures have been taken in 2 kindergartens where the last conference 3 weeks ago took place. So kindergartens also playing a vital role, and interesting enough for all of those in education, I'm often amazed. The lower you go in terms of age, the more innovative these places become. The higher you go up, you go to university, well, talk about educational innovation, it's rather poor, that's quite dramatic. It's also that most university professors are not taught anything about pedagogy. It's just a subject they may master, but then there's no way of, how to catalyze transformation is just not a skill. In kindergarten, many teachers have amazing skills on that level. So there we are in the kindergarten, and well, you can see we also do, in this case, eurythmic exercises together. There is all kinds of a confluence of arts, intellect, enterprise, and community-based initiatives coming together to explore the future of Slovenia. And I want to end with one of the civilization that certainly inspired our planet tremendously. This is ancient Egypt. I'm just coming 3 days ago from there. And I'm working for many, many years, 12, 13 years now in Egypt, particularly with Sikhem, which is a fascinating impulse for sustainable development. They won the Alternative Nobel Prize for their work. But 2 years ago, actually the junior fellow who went to India, you remember, to that school, he works now in Cairo, in the Goethe Institute. And he said to Goethe Institute, I think you should invite Alexander over and talk about the integral work. And so they did. We did 1 workshop last year, and then they gave me 2 this year. And I worked with this group of young people, some are missing, and we worked for over 2 workshops and in between a lot of catalyzation to create what we call the Egyptian Genius Innovation Community, bringing people together with their passion for change for their society. And Egypt is certainly a very tough climate at the moment. Civil society is crushed tremendously, but there is an opportunity under the roof of Goethe Institute where I can work with a group of 15 young people who have a vision for their society. And the vision goes, we found these 4 major themes in which the individual projects are. So environment is one, culture and heritage is one, transformative education, and women and children rights. And here we are working together to help each one to develop his project, help them together to develop groups to work, and an innovation community that can last and move into the future. Because I would love to support building structures that can run by themselves and not needing input from outside, at least not one that is dominating. We all need input from outside regularly, but not in a directed way, but more in an invited way. And I want to give a flavor of what we did there, because one of the participants did a video, just to give a little bit of a flavor how we worked in this particular context. But before we do that, I would like to end with my second poem, Evoking the Power of the One Life. And this is not called zero. Oh, perfect, I'm even in time, which is rare for me, but I'm very happy that this is the case today. The second poem is indeed called One. One word, one gaze, one touch, one gesture. How can you fill so much in one? You say that one is all there is. You, I, we, they are all but one. One light, one breath, one life, one death. So now we go to Egypt. Thank you. We have a little video that Florian is going to put up. Florian, is a video cooperative?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
We have sound?
In the 4th century BC, Herodot, the Greeks, reported that Egypt is the gift of the Nile. But we should mention the founder of such great human civilization on earth, the Egyptians, to complete the triangle of life, of time, the place, and the character. And now, after 5,409 years, a group of young Egyptians joined together between June and October 2019 for one focus: to change the life by releasing their personal genius, their social genius, for more sustainability based on their own cultural heritage. All of this led by Professor Alexander Schieffer, a German expert, lives in France, who got passion to have an interactive education approach, to embrace humanity for their social transformation, to absorb the concept of change for better life. With his genius model, the Egyptian youth started to write and to show their own ideal solutions, which were filtered to include culture and heritage, education, environment, women and children rights, which already touch the main challenges of the Egyptian society. The core of the genius model is connected with me and the people surrounding me, my family, friends, and the whole people interested in that, where both of them are showing I and showing us together. It is connected with their cultural backgrounds and lifestyle. The grounding stage connected with research and watching the daily life of people, and providing for them the knowledge that their life is very precious, with a lot of elements of civilization, culture, and heritage. The emerging stage connected with a dialogue, an open dialogue between I and us, where all people can express what they want to do, whether it is positive or negative, where they can listen and talk to make brainstorming to find creative solutions for a real community development. And about the navigating, it is a kind of filtration of ideas, where they can reform these ideas into a clear prototypes of services, productions, or valuable awareness campaigns. The effecting would be the big dream which will come true by reaching the goal and finding new ways to reach the people and telling them about the value of what they have, where they can be a kind of a big fun, can give them a big profit, which can also give a very sustainable approach for their future, for themselves and for the new generation living with us in the same place. As we are all from here, we know the problems, and we do our best to find smart and creative solutions. We all share knowledge, we all learn from here and there, from I and us, not just in Egypt, but also in India, Mexico, Zimbabwe, Germany and Russia, and many other places, many other times, and many other people, within an intercultural diversity dialogue and process of transformation. The created group between June and October 2019 chose the name of the Egyptian Genius Innovation Community to be an open umbrella for all Egyptians and other nationalities to be part of that, or to support for social innovation with your experience and dynamic interaction, to join the Egyptian Genius Innovation Community, where they can have solutions for better life.
I send it to Egypt, your affirmation. I don't know if you have some time for questions or.
Yes. I think it is such an inspiring presentation you give, so I would like to open the floor for a couple of questions before we go into general discussion. So I'm sorry for those who speak only French, it was in English, but you can ask your questions in French too. So anybody who has a question to Alexander? I think they're very impressed by you.
Please.
Just a question of understanding. Does it have something to do with Geneva?
I would say yes, in the sense that I believe that there is a whole emergence of more integrated solutions. Ken Wilber, for whom most of you may know him, is perhaps the most prolific integral philosopher of our time. So I admire him, and you can see his 4 quadrants kind of resonate with our 4-fold center. So yes, there is resonance, but there is not. It's not the same school, if you so want, but a lot of resonance. The same field, I would say.
What was the question?
Oh, the question is whether the integral model that I introduced, that we co-created, whether it is connected to Ken Wilber's work, the great integral philosopher and social philosopher from the United States. Oh, please.
Malgré que je ne connais pas l'anglais, je suis totalement d'accord avec vous. Par le peu que j'ai compris, intuitivement j'ai compris que je suis en parfait accord avec ce que vous avez dit, et je souhaite, si c'est réciproque, une collaboration dans l'avenir, parce que quand même la prénatalité dans toutes ces stratégies, elle a son rôle, son apport. Et je tiens à vous féliciter parce que je vois la jeunesse très présente. Ça, c'est magnifique. Et parce que la jeunesse, elle est porteur d'avenir, et vous faites bonne figure dans ce contexte-là, et vous êtes dans le courant de la vie d'aujourd'hui. Je vous félicite et je me réjouis parce que avec cette action-là, vraiment, on participe sérieusement pour améliorer les choses. Vraiment, merci encore.
Merci pour ça. Et je veux dire vraiment que c'est une aspiration et intérêt de nous d'entrer plus. J'ai pensé que j'ai touché les limites parce que maintenant on travaille avec le kindergarten. Mais aujourd'hui, j'ai vu que ce n'est pas la limite. Il faut même aller. Comme ça, je comprends votre travail comme un enlargement aussi de la mienne. Merci.
Okay.
Oui.
Yes.
C'est juste une remarque. On sent que c'est vraiment vivant. C'est vraiment, le processus même est vivant. Et que vous, ouais, c'est ça, très vivant et créatif. Et ça, c'est comme si on peut faire confiance, on peut juste y aller, et puis on est vivant ensemble, et on pense ensemble, et on traite ensemble, et on crée ensemble. C'est vraiment beau, on le sent.
Merci pour dire ça. Je veux aussi dire que, parce que un part de moi est aussi dans le monde académique. Mais seulement un part, pour les raisons que j'ai déjà données. Mais ce que je veux dire que si je pense que les modèles qu'on crée peuvent être un miroir de la vie et pas des abstractions qui ne touchent pas la réalité. Ça, c'est super important pour moi, pour aussi laisser retourner la vie dans ce monde des idées et des concepts qu'on essaie. Merci pour ça.
Oui, puis que, pardon, je continue. C'est comme si le sud a autant d'importance que le nord. Les pieds, ils ont autant d'importance que la tête, etc. Et c'est comme si on commence à retrouver le sens de tout, l'essence de chaque chose, la place de chacun a de nouveau sa place.
Et si on peut voir ça, c'est que vous avez dit aussi que les cultures des Sud, l'Afrique, les cultures des Est, chacun a la même place dans la totalité. Je crois que ça nous donne une clé pour recréer nous-mêmes comme humanité.
That brings me to a question which I would like to ask you. You told that you go to all kinds of places over the world, so Egypt, Lebanon, Slovenia, Nigeria, and in each of these countries you try to evoke the essence of that country itself. Now, of course, we all know we are talking here about the one life, and we know that there is unity in diversity, so the one life expresses itself in all kinds of different things. My question is, can you really evoke that essence in those people? My fear is that it is buried down in all the glamour and materialism which they are bombarded by the rest of the world. Do you see my question?
Yeah. I want to say that it's always a process. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I wouldn't say that I do that. It's more like that I try to create a conducive environment where that can happen. Let's put it this way. The third one, I'm looking everywhere for what are the key protagonists. It could be historic figures who express it beautifully from the lens of that culture that I then bring in. You know, because often it's quite interesting that people are not even aware about the cultural treasures that are. So we try to bring that into the context. And rather than or, to find out, and that actually takes time, who are the people in a society who do represent that depth, who still hold that connection. You find them everywhere. You go to Slovenia, there is this marvelous UNESCO peace artist, also Marko Pugachnik. And he's an artist, but he also is a deep interpreter, a deep embodiment of Slovene culture. Not that he alone is it, but I'm looking to bring these people into the context so people have an opportunity to connect to what is core in their culture. And I would say it's a continuous process of unfolding. There is a danger of saying also, I do that sometimes, the essential, because then you become essentialist and you reduce people to something. And yet, there is something unique that you can find in every society. And when people connect to that uniqueness, not just individual, but also collective, it releases energy. It's a kind of amazing phenomenon. People are getting empowered in order to participate in life in a new way. And that, I think, is a very beautiful and necessary process.
Well, in the talk of Philip Lindsay, he was mentioning that each nation has its own race, its own astrological signs. So it is true, each nation has its own specific qualities, but they should be kept alive. It is a process, I agree with you.
Can I say one thing, because it touched me tremendously when I was in Iceland years ago. And you know, the island is so small, there are, I don't know, a couple of 100,000 people living. So the Prime Minister opened the conference. And it was the first time that I heard the Prime Minister talking about what is Iceland's contribution to the world. The question I always ask myself is, why is not every Chancellor, Prime Minister, you need to ask, of course, how do I contribute and help do the best for my country. But then what is the role of my country in the world? What's my contribution towards my neighbor, to the world as a whole? And I find this is so important to ask this question and to reflect on it as a process. And by tapping into what is unique in you, you can also make then an intimation of how do you contribute to the world at large. Thank you.
Yes, Alejandro?
Thank you very much. Very interesting and inspiring presentation. Thank you very much for this very interesting and inspiring presentation. I think we could exchange for days, not for hours.
Yes.
Because you've got so many things. But having also been in many parts of the world for many times, I don't know if we are in a kind of an historic. There's an historic perspective in all of this. You think about the Roman Empire, or the Ottoman Empire, or the British Empire, or the French colonies, or all the colonies in the world. They were all over the world, and they put down local cultures for many years. And now we have different kind of empires now. We have the empire of technology. 95% of all patents in the world, we are using iPhones done in the United States. All the internet that we use is based in the United States. Everything that goes out from Europe to the world goes to Ireland, because there's the hub of Google and many others. So there's a power, as it was mentioned by Minister, there's a manpower that it's working in favor of the big, working in favor of the powerful, working in favor of the successful economically. So it's very difficult to come with a live, cultural, goodwill argument when all the rest of the forces are working against you.
Yeah.
So there are many things for reflection. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree fully.
Okay. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.